my twin sister leaned over my hospital bed while I was still bleeding from my C-section and whispered that she was going to become me. I was 29 hours postpartum. My body felt like it had been unzipped and emptied out. The twins, a boy and a girl, perfect, screaming mine, were in the nursery, and I was drifting in and out of consciousness, tethered to Enroman 4, a catheter, and a morphine pump that made the world soft and slow. Brianna stood by the bed in the dark, her face inches from mine, our face. The same green eyes, the same widow's peak, the same small mole on the left side of the chin that our mother used to kiss when we were small. "You were always the good one," she said. Her breath smelled like the peppermint gum she chewed when she was nervous. The wife, the mother, the one who got the house, the husband, the life. I was just the extra, the single one. The failure. The one Dad calls the disappointment. I tried to speak. My throat was dry. The morphine turned my tongue into felt. "But now I'm you," she said, and she smiled. It was my smile. The one I'd practiced in mirrors. The one I'd used to convince myself I was happy. "Sleep tight, Ava." She pressed the button on my morphine pump. Once, twice, 3 times. The machine beeped in protest, but she'd already disabled the lockout with a code she'd watched the nurse enter. The world went liquid. I felt myself sinking, felt her hand smooth my hair back from my forehead, felt her lips brush my ear. "See you on the other side," she whispered, "or not." When I woke up, I was in a different bed. White walls, bars on the windows, a woman in scrubs checking my vitals with a clipboard that said Jane Doe, psychiatric hold. I screamed. I screamed until my throat tore, until they held me down, until a needle slid into my arm and the world went black again. Welcome to Little Bunny Stories. If you're here, maybe you know what it means to look in the mirror and see your own face on someone else's life. Maybe you know the particular horror of being erased while you're still breathing. Maybe you know what it's like to have your own family bury you alive because it was easier than admitting you were the good daughter after all. If that's you, subscribe. Not because I have comfort, because I have a key, and because the story I'm about to tell you ends with me standing on a stage in my childhood home, holding my own babies, while my twin sister screamed that I was a ghost. Here's my story. Brianna and I were identical in every way that mattered on the outside. Same DNA, same heartbeat in the womb, same face that made people stop on the street and ask if we were models or actresses or robots. But inside, we were built from different blueprints. I was the one who colored inside the lines. She was the one who set the lines on fire. I was Ava, the artist, the dreamer, the one who moved to the city at 19, worked 3 jobs to pay for art school, met Mark at a gallery opening when I was 24, and fell in love with his steadiness. He was an architect. He drew straight lines for a living. I drew trees. We made sense. We bought a house. We tried for 3 years to have a baby, and when the fertility treatments worked and the ultrasound showed 2 heartbeats, I thought my life had finally outgrown the shadow of being a twin. Brianna stayed home, not just in our hometown, in our parents' house. At 29, she still lived in the bedroom with the canopy bed and the ballet trophies. She worked at the front desk of our father's real estate firm, filing papers, answering phones, making coffee. She dated men who didn't stay. She watched me from a distance, through Instagram and Christmas dinners, her eyes tracking my life like it was a movie she was entitled to star in. "You have everything," she told me once at Thanksgiving, 2 months before the twins were born. She was drunk on our mother's wine, her cheeks flushed, her voice too loud. "The husband, the house, the babies on the way, and what do I have? A room that still has my high school diploma on the wall." "You can leave anytime," I said. I meant it kindly. "You can build something, I'll help you." "I don't want to build something," she said. "I want what you built." I laughed. I shouldn't have. It was the laugh of a woman who didn't understand that her sister was not making a joke. She was making a plan. The pregnancy was hard, twins, high risk. I was on bed rest for the last 12 weeks, and Mark was working overtime on a project that could make his career. My mother suggested Brianna move in to help. She could cook, clean, drive me to appointments. She could be the sister I needed. I said yes. I was tired, I was scared, and some part of me, the part that still believed in family, that still remembered us holding hands in the womb, thought this could heal the distance between us. I thought if she saw my life up close, she would understand that it wasn't magic. It was work. It was choice. It was luck. She moved in on a Saturday. She brought her own pillows, her own shampoo, her own brand of toothpaste. She wore my clothes when hers were dirty. She answered my phone when I was napping. She made Mark's coffee in the morning the way he liked it before I even woke up. "You're so good to us," I told her one night as she rubbed lotion on my swollen feet. "I don't know what I'd do without you." She looked up at me. Her hands were still on my ankle. "You won't have to find out," she said. I thought it was sweet. I was an idiot. The delivery was an emergency. My blood pressure spiked. The babies were breech. They rushed me into an OR at 3 a.m., Brianna driving behind the ambulance, Mark flying back from a site visit, unable to get there in time. I was awake for the C-section, the curtain up, the doctors talking in calm, clipped tones. I heard them cry, two thin, furious wails, and then I was bleeding too much, and then I was gone. When I woke up, I was in the recovery room. Brianna was there. Mark wasn't, his flight had been delayed. She held my hand. She told me the babies were beautiful. She told me I was beautiful. She told me to rest. I rested for 29 hours. I held the twins once briefly, my body too weak to sit up without help. I named them Noah and Lily. I kissed their foreheads. I fell asleep with their names on my lips, and then I woke up in hell. The psychiatric facility was called Serenity Grove. It sounded like a spa. It was a prison with houseplints. I was there for 6 months, though the first 2 were a blur of medication and restraints. They told me I was Jane Doe. They told me I'd been found wandering a highway, postpartum, delusional, claiming to be someone else. They told me I had severe psychosis with Capgras delusion, the belief that my own family had been replaced by imposters. I tried to tell them who I was. I screamed my name. I described my house, my husband, my babies. But the file they had, the file Brianna had provided, said I was a homeless woman with a history of schizophrenia who'd stolen a newborn from a hospital parking lot. The photo in the file was mine. But the name was Jane Doe. And the fingerprints, somehow, didn't match any database. I know now that Brianna had planned this for months. She'd accessed my medical records through our father's connections. She'd set up the Jane Doe identity as a charity case our mother had supposedly been helping. She'd paid someone in the hospital administration to alter the transfer paperwork. And she'd convinced Mark, my Mark, who'd never been able to tell us apart in bad lighting, who'd always joked that marrying an identical twin was kinky, that I'd suffered a breakdown, that I'd attacked her, that I'd tried to steal the babies, that the best thing for everyone was to let me rest while she took care of things. Mark didn't fight, I know that now. He didn't fight because it was easier, because Brianna was there, willing, accommodating, telling him exactly what he wanted to hear, because he was tired, because the babies needed a mother, because the paperwork said I was dangerous. And my parents. My father, Robert, who'd always preferred Brianna's obedience to my independence. My mother, Diane, who'd always resented that I left while Brianna stayed. They signed the papers. They paid the facility. They attended the funeral. Yes, the funeral. Brianna held a memorial service for me while I was still alive. She told everyone I'd died of septicemia after the birth. A tragic complication. She wore black. She wept at the podium. She held Noah and Lily, her nieces and nephew, and accepted condolences for her brave decision to step in and raise them. She moved into my house. She wore my clothes. She slept in my bed. She married Mark in a civil ceremony 3 months after my death, claiming it was what Ava would have wanted for the babies to have a family, for her to keep their life stable. She became me, completely. She changed her legal name to Ava Brianna Hale. She used my social security number. Our father had access to everything. She collected my inheritance from my grandmother's trust, which released on my 30th birthday. She answered my phone. She posted on my social media. She lived my life so thoroughly that even my friends forgot the difference. And I was in Serenity Grove, eating pills that made my tongue swell, attending group therapy where I learned to say I am Jane Doe, and I am ill because saying anything else meant isolation, meant restraints, meant needles. I survived by becoming small, by waiting, by watching the patterns of the nurses, the schedules of the orderlies, the locks on the doors. I was an artist. I was good at observing details, and I was patient. I had nothing but time. I escaped on a Tuesday in March. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't break a window or fight a guard. I simply played the role they'd cast me in. I told my therapist I'd accepted my illness. I took my medication in front of the nurse, then hid it under my tongue and spat it into the toilet. I smiled at the right moments. I cried at the right moments. I said I am grateful for the care I received in a voice so humble it made my teeth ache. They discharged me to a halfway house. I walked out the front door, took a bus to the city, and disappeared. I had no money, no ID, no phone. I was a ghost in my own life, but I had my mind, and I had my face. I found a shelter, a women's center with a kind director who didn't ask too many questions. I slept on a cot for 3 weeks, eating soup and bread, planning. I used the shelter's computer to look up my own name. Ava Hale, deceased, Obituary in the hometown paper. Beloved daughter, wife, and mother. Survived by her twin sister, Brianna, who heroically stepped in to care for her children. The photo with the obituary was of Brianna, wearing my wedding dress, holding my babies, smiling my smile. I scrolled further. Mark's Instagram. Photos of his Ava, Brianna, at the beach at the park. In my kitchen. The comments were sickening. You two are soulmates, so glad you found happiness again. Brianna is such an angel for taking care of those babies. I found the wedding announcement. Brianna and Mark married at the courthouse. A quiet ceremony, it said, in honor of Ava's memory. I vomited into the shelter's bathroom sink. I didn't cry. I had no tears left. I only had heat. A white-hot, steady heat that lived in my chest and made my hands steady. I was going to get them back, not by force, by face, by being exactly what Brianna had stolen. I changed everything. I dyed my hair platinum blonde, a color Brianna would never choose. I got colored contact lenses, turning my green eyes blue. I lost 20 pounds in 6 weeks, not by choice but by necessity, eating only what the shelter provided. I practiced a different voice, a different walk, a different laugh, and then I applied for a job. The ad was on a local parenting forum. Nanny needed for infant twins. Living preferred, must be flexible, discreet, and willing to travel. Competitive salary. I knew it was them before I read the contact name. B. Hale. I applied under the name Claire. I used a fake ID from a shelter advocate who understood revenge better than judgment. I sent references I forged, a resume I invented, and a photo of myself, blonde, blue-eyed, unrecognizable. Brianna interviewed me in my house, in my kitchen, with my babies in the next room. She looked good, better than good. She was wearing my silk robe, the one Mark bought me for our first anniversary. Her nails were done in the French manicure I used to get. She held a mug of tea in both hands the way I did when I was nervous. Tell me about yourself, Claire, she said. I smiled, a Claire smile. Bright, empty, eager to please. I'm from the Midwest. I love children. I don't have family here, so I'm fully available. I know how hard it is to find good help. I want to be the help you need. She studied me. I saw her looking for herself in my face, but I had changed too much. The hair, the weight, the eyes, the voice. I was a stranger, a useful stranger. You're hired, she said. The twins are. They're a handful, but you'll manage. She showed me the nursery. My nursery. The one I'd painted pale yellow, with the mobile of paper cranes I'd folded while I was pregnant. Noah and Lily were in their cribs, 9 months old, chubby and beautiful, with my eyes and Mark's chin. I picked up Lily. She looked at me, really looked, and then she smiled, a gummy, drooling, perfect smile. Brianna laughed. She likes you. She doesn't like everyone. She has good taste, I said, and I meant it. I moved in that weekend. Into the guest room down the hall from the master bedroom. The master bedroom where my husband slept with my sister, where my babies cried at night and Brianna didn't wake up because she wore earplugs and left the monitor with me. I was the nanny, the help, the invisible woman, and I was exactly where I needed to be. The first 3 months were reconnaissance. I documented everything. Brianna had installed cameras in the house, nanny cams, she called them, to keep an eye on the help. I found them all. One in the nursery, one in the kitchen, one in the living room. She was paranoid. She didn't trust anyone, least of all herself. I used the cameras against her. I learned her schedule, her passwords, her fears. She checked her email 3 times a day, always on her phone, always in the bathroom. She had a second phone, a burner, that she used to text our father. I found it once, charging in the drawer where she kept my old jewelry. The texts were damning. She's getting suspicious. Mark asked why the twins don't look like me. Keep him busy. The money clears next month. What if someone recognizes her? She's dead, Bri, you buried her. Stop panicking. I photographed everything. I recorded conversations on my phone, hidden in my pocket. I saved screenshots. I built a file, and I watched Mark. He was different, heavier, slower. He looked at Brianna with a fondness that was also distance, the way you look at a painting you bought because it matched the couch. He didn't love her, he loved the convenience of her. The way she made his life run without him having to touch the controls. But he looked at me differently. I made sure of it. I wore my hair up the way Ava used to. I hummed the song I used to hum while cooking. I laughed at his jokes with the exact cadence of my old laugh. Small things, subtle things. Things that made him tilt his head and say, Claire, you remind me of someone. Who? I'd ask, innocent. I don't know. Someone I used to know. I was patient. I was water. I was wearing away at the foundation of their lie, one drop at a time. Brianna started to crack. I helped it along. I left notes in the house, not threatening. Just familiar, a sketch of a paper crane on the kitchen counter. A quote from a book we'd both loved as children, written on a post-it. A playlist on the smart speaker with songs from our childhood. She found them. She couldn't tell Mark. How would she explain why a stranger's taste in music terrified her? She started drinking. She started taking pills. She was pregnant. I found the test in the bathroom trash, and she hadn't told Mark yet. She was waiting for the right time, waiting for the inheritance to clear, waiting for the lie to become solid enough to survive the truth. I didn't let her wait. The night I broke her, it was raining. Mark was working late. The twins were asleep. Brianna was in the living room, drinking wine, watching a reality show that made her feel superior. I walked in without knocking. I didn't have the contacts in. I didn't have the blonde dye. I was wearing my hair in a braid the way I always had, and no makeup and my own face. She looked up. She froze. The wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the tile. "Hi, Bri," I said. "Miss me?" she screamed. A high, animal sound. She backed away, her hands up, knocking over a lamp. "You're not real, you're not real, you're dead. I buried you." "You buried a box of ashes," I said. "You didn't bury me, you just locked me in a room and told everyone I was crazy." "But guess what? I'm not crazy, and I'm not dead, and I'm not Jane Doe." She grabbed a fireplace poker. She held it like a sword. "Get out. Get out of my house. It's not your house, it's not your husband, and they are not your babies." I stepped closer. "You took everything from me, Bri. My face, my name, my life, and you know what the worst part is? You're still not happy. Look at you. Pregnant, paranoid, drinking. You're wearing my life like a costume and it's eating you alive." She swung the poker. I dodged. She was slow, uncoordinated, drunk. I was sober. I was sharp. I was angry. "Mark," she screamed. "Mark, help me." Mark wasn't there. But the nanny cam was. It was recording everything. And I had already disabled the others. I didn't hit her. I didn't need to. I just looked at her, our face, our eyes. The same DNA, the same womb, the same start. And I said, "I'm going to take it all back. Not because I want it, because it's mine, and because you don't deserve it." I walked out. I put the contacts back in. I dyed my hair. I became Claire again, but the damage was done. Brianna didn't sleep that night. She didn't sleep for 3 nights. She started seeing me in shadows, in mirrors, in the faces of strangers on the street. She told Mark she was being haunted. He told her to rest. She told him she was pregnant. He was happy, distracted, but happy. She needed him to be focused on her, and he was focused on the baby. I kept working. I kept caring for Noah and Lily. I taught Lily to say mama while looking at me. I taught Noah to reach for me when he was hungry. Brianna watched from the doorway, her face gaunt, her hands shaking, and she knew. She knew they were bonding with me, the real mother, the ghost in her house. The party was Brianna's idea. A welcome to the family celebration for the new baby combined with the twins' first birthday. She invited everyone, our parents, Mark's colleagues, the church group, the real estate firm. She wanted to solidify her position, to be seen as the matriarch, to make the lie permanent. She didn't know I had planned it. I helped with the decorations. I chose the playlist. I set up the AV system. "I'm good with tech," I told her, smiling. She smiled back, but her eyes were hollow. She was taking pills to stay calm. She was drinking to stay upright. She was 7 weeks pregnant and looked like she was dying. The night of the party, the house was full. 200 people, balloons, a cake with the twins' names spelled in sugar. Brianna wore a white dress, my white dress, the one I'd bought for my baby shower. She held Noah on her hip, Lily by the hand, and posed for photos like the perfect mother. Mark stood beside her, smiling for the cameras. He looked at me once across the room and I saw confusion in his eyes. I was wearing a simple black dress. My hair was down, no contacts, no dye, just me. The speeches began. Our father, Robert, talked about resilience. Our mother, Diane, talked about the miracle of family. Mark talked about moving forward. Brianna took the microphone last. She was going to announce the pregnancy. She was going to cement her victory. I waited until she opened her mouth. Then I pressed the button. The lights went down. The screens behind her, the ones I'd set up to show a slideshow of family memories, flickered to life. But the images weren't of Brianna, they were of me. My ultrasound photos, my name on the hospital bracelet, my face, holding the twins in the recovery room 29 hours before Brianna stole them. Then the security footage. Brianna in the hospital hallway talking to a nurse, handing over an envelope, the transfer papers, the psychiatric facility intake form with my photo and the name Jane Doe, then the texts, "Brianna to our father, she's getting suspicious. The money clears next month. What if someone recognizes her? She's dead, Bri." The room went silent. Brianna's face, my face, went white. She looked at the screen, she looked at me, she looked at Mark. That's not, she started, but the video kept playing, the recording from the living room, Brianna drunk, holding the fireplace poker, screaming that I was dead, admitting she'd buried ashes, admitting she'd locked me away. Then the financial records, the inheritance, the trust. The transfers from my grandmother's estate into an account Brianna had opened. I walked onto the stage. I didn't run, I didn't sneak. I walked in my black dress with my face bare under the lights that had once celebrated my wedding. I took the microphone from Brianna's frozen hand. I picked up Lily, who reached for me instantly. I held Noah's hand and he came to me without hesitation. My name is Ava Hale, I said. My voice was steady. It didn't shake. It was the voice of a woman who had been buried alive and learned to dig with her fingernails. I am not dead. I was not crazy. I did not die of septicemia. My twin sister drugged me after I gave birth to these children. She had me committed to a psychiatric facility under a false name. She told my husband I was dangerous. She told my parents I was dead. And she took my face, my name, my house, my babies, and my life. I looked at our father. He was standing by the cake table, his face purple, his hand on his chest. You knew, I said. You paid the facility. You signed the papers. You told everyone I was dead because it was easier than admitting your favorite daughter was a thief. I looked at our mother. She was crying, but they were the wrong kind of tears. You let her wear my wedding dress to my funeral, I said. You held her hand while she buried me alive. I looked at Mark. He was staring at me like he was seeing a ghost. Maybe he was. You didn't look for me, I said. You didn't question. You let her become me because it was convenient, because you were tired, because you never really knew the difference. I held Lily closer. She was warm, she was real, she was mine. I am taking my children home, I said, not to this house. To a home I will build with my own hands. And the rest of you can keep the lie, but you can't keep me in it anymore. Brianna made a sound. A low, guttural moan. She looked at the crowd, the faces she knew, the friends she'd made with my name, the life she'd built on my grave. She saw them looking at her with horror, with disgust, with the recognition that they'd been fooled by a woman who wore her sister's skin. She tried to speak, tried to explain. But the pregnancy, the pills, the weeks of paranoia, and the sudden collapse of her entire world were too much. She grabbed her stomach. She swayed. And then she screamed. It was not a human sound. It was the sound of a woman who had spent her whole life wanting to be someone else, finally becoming no one at all. She collapsed on the stage, her white dress pooling around her, her hands clawing at the floor. She screamed that I was in the walls, that I was in the mirrors, that I was everywhere and nowhere and she couldn't escape my face. The ambulance came, not for me, for her. She was hospitalized for observation. The police came too, not because I called them, though I could have. They came because the guests were witnesses, because the evidence was on the screens, because some crimes are too loud to ignore. Brianna was arrested. Our father was arrested. Mark was questioned, though never charged. He was too good at pretending ignorance, and I was too tired to fight him. My mother retreated to her sister's house and stopped answering the phone. I didn't go to the trial. I didn't need to see Brianna in an orange jumpsuit, or my father in handcuffs, or the faces of the people who'd let me die. I had what I needed: Noah and Lily, my babies, my name, my face. We moved to a small apartment by the lake. It had one bedroom, a kitchen that smelled like old coffee, and a window where the morning sun came in sideways. It was nothing like the house I'd lost. But it was mine, every inch of it. I didn't take Mark back. He tried. He sent flowers. He sent letters. He sent a check for child support that I tore up and mailed back in pieces. You didn't know the difference, I wrote on the back of the envelope. You don't deserve to. Brianna gave birth in prison, a girl, she named her Ava. I heard about it from a reporter who wanted my comment. I had none. I hope the child grows up knowing her own name. I hope she never has to wear someone else's. I opened a studio, not for art, though I still draw. For women. Two Faces Studio, I called it. A place for women who have had their identity stolen by twins, by sisters, by family, by anyone who looked at their life and decided it should be theirs. We do legal aid. We do therapy. We do hair and makeup and walk clients through the process of becoming themselves again. Lily is 3 now. She has my eyes and my laugh. Noah is 3 too. He has my stubbornness and Mark's chin, though I don't tell him that. They know their mother is the woman who came back from the dead. They know it as a story, not a trauma. They know I fought for them, and every morning I look in the mirror. I see my face, my real face. No dye, no contacts, no disguise, just me. Ava, the one who lived. I'm Ava. I'm 30 years old. I'm a mother, a survivor, a twin who learned that the cruelest theft is not of your things but of your face. I am the woman who was buried alive and learned to dig. If someone ever tried to erase you while you were still breathing, to wear your life like a costume and call it theirs, drop a below. I read every single comment. And if this story made you want to reclaim your own face, hit subscribe. We tell stories like this every week. What part of yourself are you finally ready to take back?